This episode is going to get pretty deep, both literally and metaphorically, as we seek to fulfill our life's goals while also running from our demons by plunging so deep below the earth that we find ourselves at the gates of hell. So how does one exit hell after entering? We open riding on a bus with a very rural flair in Iran. The videographer in this case is rushing to uncover and record the secrets of a very special series of caves that are scheduled to be demolished to make way for newer, more luxurious caves. As Scarlett is led through the market, she's warned by her contact that the risks of getting caught are severe. However, she is as committed as anyone could be, so they present to her their hole. They rush through with warning sounds and lights going off all around them, indicating the impending explosion. She proceeds against recommendation and shortly finds an ancient tablet. She immediately vandalizes it so she can get at an even more precious engraving written on a beautiful bull's bust. She quickly scans the rose key with her camcorder so she can work to translate it when things are less explodey, thus fulfilling her father's life's work. But this proves to be a waste because Daddy's been hanging out just outside the entrance this whole time. The charges then detonate and she's cast into darkness. Scarlett manages to keep running until she once again finds her old friend Reza, who now warns her that everyone who has searched for the answers provided by this artifact has wound up dead or succumbed to madness. Scarlett then provides a more formal introduction. She's a boss bitch professor with many degrees and specialties. She's following her father's pursuit of the Philosopher's Stone, hoping to get her hands on some of that gold, while also outrunning the shadow of her father's self-inflicted death. When we meet up with Scarlett and her cameraman Benji again, they're in France. This is where the preeminent alchemist of history, Nicholas Flamel, supposedly hid away a stone that he succeeded in creating. The rose key is supposed to hold the information they need to unlock his cryptography, but it's written in Aramaic, so they need special help from a dude she knows, who enjoys spending his free time surreptitiously fixing complex mechanical devices. They hope to entice George to help them for the sake of the documentary. He's mad at her for leaving him in a Turkish prison, so he acts like he's too busy with his chores. But then...
I found the rose key, George.
She unburies the lead, and she happens to be just his kind of crazy. Plus, the clock is done now, and they emerge into the afternoon sun as the town hears the ringing of their bell tower for the first time in 284 years. They start their journey by sweet-talking their way into a museum to get a closer look at old Nick's slab. Scarlett really takes advantage when she removes it from the wall and puts her chemistry PhD to good use, which results in them finding the secret sauce that brings all these riddles together. They're so hyped that they start decoding that bitch right out in the parking lot. Between their various know-hows, her father's journal, and a spare copy of the Da Vinci Code, they're able to suss out that the secret they seek is located halfway to hell, in ancient terms, or about 300 feet below Flamel's tomb. That's a tall hurdle to overcome until they remember the Parisian catacombs, a vast series of underground tunnels, full of human remains. They leverage the power of historiography to identify an unmapped stretch of tunnels that would take them exactly where they want to go. The next day, they treat themselves to a quick familiarization tour, finding the tunnels to be really beautifully decorated. After mentioning offhand about their need to enter the restricted areas, they run across a burrower who gives some direction in regards to who they can go to for help, before disappearing forever. After a quick visit to a European rave, they locate their contact, Papillon. After some sassy banter, they form an immediate bond of trust, and he agrees to lead them where they want to go in exchange for half the treasure they're at. The next day, they get to meet the rest of the team, Zed and Suxi, before plotting the best course. The dangers include police, rats, lack of water, and dead batteries, among other things. As always, they make time for one quick beatbox session, then they're on their way. They have to be quick about it because if they're caught with spelunking equipment, they'll be arrested. George is around for interpretation only. He does not intend to go with them beyond the entryway. When they reach it, Benji does a quick check of the head cameras. Then, before George can give his final refusal, the tunnel police arrive in force. Somehow, through the mad scramble, they all make it down the entryway. Papillon covers them with a smoke grenade. We then learn
his little brother drowned in a cave when they were young.
So it's a good thing she pressured him to be there. Before they can sort it out, Paps takes them down and shows off his sick tags, bro. Then they proceed very comfortably through the waist-deep brackish water. We're then very lucky that the cameras capture a very rare confluence of the tunnel rats and the choir freaks, whose song emanates throughout the tunnel system. In a very short time, they arrive at the Passage of Bones, which the casuals are hesitant to mess around with. However, they are assured that this is preferable over the more direct route, which utilizes a tunnel from which people tend not to return. They even had an old friend, Lataut, who lived down here for several years and knew every tunnel. When he could no longer resist the urge to explore, he entered that system and was never seen again. So they get all up in that desecration, boy, rattling up them bones. Benji has a bit of a freak out when he gets stuck halfway through. They manage to eventually get him calmed enough to talk him out of it, but also suffer a tunnel collapse in the process. This could be okay, except the same ominous tunnel entrance is over here now as well, and the terrain no longer matches the map. They try to stay rational about this and ultimately decide to crawl through the gaping maw of the dark hole. Inside, there's an eerie vibe with inexplicable markings considering Pappy has never been here. There's also the sound of a ringing phone. They come upon an old piano that looks just like the one George had as a kid, complete with the same jacked up A4 key. Instead of working to figure this out, Scarlet rushes off in search of the infernal phone, hoping to get it before the machine picks up. Some weird voice on the other end says her name before making strange and likely perverted guttural noises. Then their old buddy shows up, Latope, and warns them that they shouldn't be here. He offers to lead them out, but unnervingly phases forward in long strokes, making it hard to keep up. Unfortunately, they come to learn the only way out from this point is to go deeper into the crevasse. They are understandably hesitant, but Scarlet believes that if they find the chamber they seek, there will be another pathway out through the southern tunnels. With that promise, they descend. And other than some pinched testicles and a bit of rope burn, they make it down okay. They eventually arrive at an area where it sounds like they're underwater. When things start popping off, they see that they've accidentally summoned the destroyer in the form of young boy. They get to the end of the tunnel, which even Latope doesn't recognize, and he lives here, but they find iconography that Scarlet can't interpret, indicating that they're on the right path. It reveals a Ptolemaic hinge. If they withdraw the correct stone, a door will open. After figuring out the answer to a riddle, they carefully slide out a stone. And instead of dying horribly, they reveal a sweet new tunnel. At the end of it is an open tomb with a very well-preserved corpse. It's creepy as heck, but Skarsgård's too busy unraveling riddles to be perturbed, and the stones tell her to keep going deeper. A quick lights out session reveals the exit under a shallow pool of nice warm water. She plunges in with reckless abandon and emerges in the treasure chamber. They believe themselves in the final room. So mission accomplished, tunnel friends. Just one more puzzle to locate the stone, which involves following a story to its conclusion, revealing the stone within the engraving. Without hesitation, she sets to chiseling that bitch out, and only afterward identifies the treasure to be a trap, for some reason. After a minor cave-in, they find themselves dusty, but otherwise okay. Other than Suxi. Oh, and Latope is missing, but he was kind of a weird turd. But also, their packs with water, batteries, and supplies were crushed. But they have the Philosopher's Stone, which demonstrates once and for all that humans are comprised of base metals. They begin looking for that back door Scarlet promised, and she upholds her end of things by finding a clue.
As above, so below.
Indicating a trap door below the carved door. The supposed way out appears to lead into the bowels of the earth, but George is happy to find some Aramaic he can decipher.
Abandon all hope, ye who enter here.
A phrase said to adorn the gates of hell, which is less grand than one would expect. It seems questionable, but they roll up their sleeves and slither on their bellies into a chamber that is the reverse of the one they just left. I mean, the one they can no longer return to. This causes Pappy to raise a valid question regarding their biostatus.
Are we dead?
No, silly, you're in hell. But at least they know what's ahead, so they're able to move a bit faster and with more assurance. But for the strange flashes and sounds, and the presence of Latope taking a light nap, he presents now as a beast, throttling Suxi before disappearing. One limitation of the stone is that it can't bring back the dead, and she died real quick, so they try to keep moving and submerging even lower. Benji's the last to go down and hesitates when he hears a noise, which eventually fast-tracks him to the bottom of the pit. They eventually make it back to the bone pathway, which is a promising turn of events, except that George peers below the surface to see his little bro taking a swim under the water. This puts him in a negative state of mind, but Scarlet's able to calm him so they can move along. But right around the corner, they come across a flickering light and some strange sounds, which they hope to just be the singing ladies from before. But it's a burning car, representing Papillon's greatest regret, sucking him in until he's buried up to his calves, but in reverse. Feeling a bit rattled, they take it fairly slow now, alert to some unusual noises and the occasional robed figure gliding about. They psych themselves up to traverse a large open room with a grand chair that is intermittently occupied. The tall pasty man likes to wander to and fro, and sometimes the walls try to eat you. George gets his neck opened up. When the stone fails to work, he gives her a little clue that makes her rethink the riddle and come to the realization that the final step in acquiring the correct stone is to first return the one she has. So she takes off, knocking down golems and climbing like a mad woman, thrashing through rivers of blood and de-shrouding a hooded figure. But she's got no time for self-reflection. After taking another run through the story wall, she finds the key was within her the whole time. You just have to believe. Back in the chamber, Zed is hoping to avoid detection by the various odd fellows occupying the space with them, so he drags George to a safer spot. Meanwhile, Scarlet takes a moment to apologize to her father for not answering the phone that night, and then continues on swiftly. She arrives back and begins to employ her magic, and after that works, they run off, eventually arriving at their final test. They have to rectify their greatest mistakes by accepting their culpability via jumping into the pit of despair. They do so, sending them surging through the colon of the underworld, only to be evacuated out the other side onto a floor. They find what appears to be a manhole cover, which can only be manipulated by pushing down on it. The fresh air coming through is promising, prompting them to take a disorienting flipsy-doo upside down and around again and back to ground level. They share a quick hug before Zed goes his own way and never enters a hole again. In the wrap-up, Scarlet reveals that her primary goal in this undertaking was to uncover the truth. So good for her, you know? Well, that was brutal, but if you're looking to go deeper than that, be sure to check out this video next. Now that we're here, I want to congratulate you for making it to the end of the video and affirm that you are a very special person because of it. And if you enjoyed the video, I would love for you to become part of the channel by subscribing. Thanks for watching.